I can hear it.
I was here in 2000.
This call is being recorded.
Her and I had a Zoom meeting with.
All participants are now unmuted.
Calls will not be answered.
This is Mark. I'm back on.
Hi, Mark. This is Mike.
Let's do a sound check, guys, for CNET, just to make sure everything's all right.
All right. Test, test, test. Stephanie, good morning. CNET, good morning.
You okay?
Good morning.
And Commissioners, Natalie Corman's also on the call for agenda items.
Sounds good so far.
Okay. Thank you, Steve. So, good morning, everybody. Thank you for bearing with us. So, what we did was everybody on the conference call is on, they call it conversation mode, which means that your line is unmuted. So if you've dialed into the call, you are not muted any longer. And so please use your phone to mute yourself. And so Commissioner Higgins, I heard that you were on the call. Can you hear me loud and clear?
I hear you just fine.
Okay, super. We have Natalie as well. Faith, are you also on?
I'm here. Thanks. Can you hear me okay?
We can, yes, thank you.
Great. Thanks.
Let's see, Chad, are you also able to hear us?
Yes, I can. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Great.
Okay. All right. Super. And if anybody else is on the call that's not a part of the meeting, feel free to, if you'd like to make public comment or add comment, just unmute yourself and we'll recognize you at that point. We appreciate you all bearing with us this morning. So, at 10:08, we're going to call the Board of Commissioners meeting to order for Tuesday, July 21st. Would you please rise wherever you're at and say with us the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And Commissioner Gershon might need to be our eyes in the room in terms of public comment. If there's anybody in the room for public comment, is there anybody in the room for public comment there, Commissioner? Do you see?
There is none at this point, no.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Anybody on the phone for public comment? Okay. Hearing none. What we're going to do is we're going to do just a quorum. Our public meeting rules state that if we do a telephonic meeting, we just need to state where we're each located. And so we know that Commissioner Gershon is there at the Willowbank building. I am here in my home in Boalsburg.
And Commissioner Higgins is outside a relative's cottage in Michigan shooting off their Wi-Fi.
Okay, so we do have a quorum, and we do have established that we are each in separate places. We will now go to our meeting minutes, a consideration of approving the minutes for July 14th, 2020. Would there be a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the minutes from the July 14th, 2020 Board of Commissioners meeting.
I will second that.
Been moved and seconded. Any final discussion, questions, comments on the minutes?
None.
Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion is carried. Okay. All right, as we go into COVID-19 planning and response, we are going to start off right away with first, Margaret, if you'd be willing to introduce our new COVID-19 County Relief Block Grant Coordinator. We're sorry that we can't be with you in person to celebrate this today, but at least from myself and Commissioner Higgins' standpoint, Margaret, if you're willing to just introduce the new addition of the county government.
Yes, certainly. This morning, I'm pleased to introduce to all of you Mary Kay Williams, who's sitting here in the front row as the county's County Relief Block Grant Coordinator, CRBG Coordinator. Mary Kay is not new to Center County government. She previously was here some time ago as the Director of Human Resources, and we're certainly glad to have her back in this role. She'll be focusing exclusively on working through the allocations and the processes related to the block grant. So we're welcome and glad to have you here.
Welcome, Mary Kay. You have a long and storied history with Center County, and hopefully we can make those stories go a little longer. So it's all good. We're looking forward to working with you.
Yes, absolutely. Congratulations, Mary Kay. Look at you. You're going to hit the ground running. So we're going to jump right into the discussion we're going to have related to the business grants and specifically for restaurants and bars. As we all know, with the governor's order last week, limiting the amount of in-person, the amount of people inside restaurants and bars, also outside, was decreased as well. And in addition, there were some closures for nightclubs and changing the service for bars as well. And so we feel it's very important that as we talk about business grants, and we've been doing a lot of work towards getting business grants out with the application, with the guidelines, making sure that we're cutting checks as soon as when we are able to in the near future. But we want to make sure that we recognize that restaurants and bars, since we are such a tourism economy, are needing our help first and foremost. And so we are obviously going to be doing a large business grant program, a sizable amount of that CARES Act funds that we talked about before. But we really feel that we need to get some money out right now to the restaurants and bars that are affected by this order and do that without haste. And so one of the things we wanted to do today was to talk about basically, again, Mary Kay has joined the team, and essentially just having a conversation to make sure that we can expedite that, get that out as quickly as possible. But what it also allows us to do is it allows us to let our restaurants and bars that are here in our Center County community know that we're going to get relief to them and assistance, again, to make sure that they can keep afloat during this very difficult time. And we were already going to do a business grant program and application process, but this essentially front loads it and gets them the money they need. And I wouldn't be surprised that once we start taking those applications, we could also open up a application window for other businesses as well. And so I just wanted to kick off the discussion there. We do know that Commissioner Higgins has been working closely with the Penn State SBDC, and Commissioner Dersham as well has been talking nonstop with businesses here in our community about the concerns they're hearing. But we just wanted to have a conversation about that and, again, see where we go from here. So I'll stop there and turn it over to Commissioner Higgins.
Thanks, Mike. Yes, we've been working very closely with the Penn State SBDC. Tim, John, and their team are actually running a bit ahead of schedule. We have a rough draft of an application for the small businesses. At this point, it's only about 2 pages. Might end up expanding a little bit, maybe to 3. On my conference call this morning with the Happy Valley Adventure Bureau, one of the people there mentioned that another county's application is like over 12 pages. So we're trying to keep it short and sweet for our local businesses. We'll be working very closely, of course, with Mary Kay. Congratulations, by the way, for coming on board. Working closely with Mary Kay, the SBDC, with Chad in our IT, with RBA, to have this process be as online and as quick as possible.
Want me to carry the ball from there?
Yeah, sounds good, Commissioner. Yes.
Okay, and to go back to the whole conversation about restaurants, I think it's imperative that we provide some level of relief for our hospitality community in our region. I think we need to look at a couple of things, at least in my opinion. I think that we need to get a firm number of the number of businesses, the number of restaurants, the number of bars, then at that point, we need to kind of break it down to the number of employees, figure out what would be a fair amount to grant, various sizes entities. And I think we need to look at the reality that we need to keep those conversations local. I don't know that we need to provide the national chains the relief. Most of those folks have been surviving on a different business model, but the folks that rely directly on walk-in traffic, those are the folks that we're really worried about. There are so many things going on right now, so many challenges that these folks are facing. But when you look at the max seating capacity at 25% indoors, you look at the fact that their business revenue possibilities have been deteriorated. I think we need to look at every opportunity to provide immediate relief to those businesses. Those are my initial thoughts. I would like to have a pretty strong conversation about how we get this process moving and give Mary Kay some marching orders to work on this. So that's where I'm at.
I would agree, Commissioner. I think that as much as we can do to keep the money local, especially a lot of these national chains have a drive-through capability that has really helped them out and is a great way for us to make sure that we're doing the social distancing with the COVID-19. So, but a lot of these local chains don't have that capacity and that capability and really build for a wonderful experience in dining, and that doesn't exist now. So essentially what we were hoping for was a consensus to begin the process and expedite the process for grants to local businesses. And again, we do want to be mindful of some of the businesses that have not yet received federal relief or state relief through the PPP program or other avenues, and because they just might not have qualified for it or not been able to get access to it. So again, helping out the businesses that have local businesses that haven't been able to get that type of relief is also very, very important. So I think we're going to have a lot of conversations this week about what that looks like. But in terms of the process, it sounds like we have consensus. Again, developing a grant program application process that helps our small local businesses that are in the restaurant bar industry that were affected by this recent order from the governor, and to, again, expedite that process. And we have limited resources. We should say that to our community. So there will be decisions about who we can help and what that amount's going to look like. But we just wanted to let our local hospitality, again, restaurant and bars that were affected by the governor's order and will be affected indefinitely, it sounds like, that relief is coming from our standpoint, and we're going to help out in any way possible. Are there any other flavors we want to put on this or specific points that we want to put on this? I think I highly agree with Commissioner Gersham's point about the local aspect, making sure that it's as local as possible.
Mike, this is Steve again. Oh, go ahead, Mark.
Well, this is Mark. So I can send an email to the SBDC saying we would like at least a rough estimate of the number of bars and restaurants located in Center County, to exclude nationally owned chain locations, but to perhaps do include national, say, names or brands that are perhaps owned by local franchisees.
I think there's also an opportunity to talk to the Department of Health and the Department of Agriculture as to, and obviously the LCB as to who the impacted members would be in our community.
Right, I just want-
We're going to have. Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
I just want to clarify, though, that if we have somebody who has a national brand on their storefront, but they're owned actually by a local business person, are we potentially looking at including them in the grant program?
I think franchisees would count. I would have no problem with that.
Yeah, and the key point we know from the state grants have been they have to be headquartered in Pennsylvania, and if we do the same thing, they have to be headquartered in Center County. But if somebody is a resident, let's say of Florida, and they have properties here, they might not rise to the top of the list. But somebody who is headquartered here in Center County, that would rise to the top. That's how I would view it.
You're talking about restaurants that really make up the real flavor of our community. I mean, I think about the restaurants that have been in business for decades and decades, and to lose those would be just tragic. And every corner of our county has those special places. So I think we need to work very hard to make sure that our local folks are taken care of first and foremost.
And the question on the application, I mean, many of these franchisees, again, I'm not exactly sure how it's worked, but if a national chain would have gotten PPP funds, the assumption would be that some of those funds may have trickled down to franchisees. So if that's the case, they've gotten relief. Therefore, they wouldn't necessarily rise to the top of the list for our grant program. So asking that on the form or the application is, have they received, if the national chain has not given franchisee funding, again, we would want to take that into consideration. But again, they're not the folks that we're talking about first and foremost, but we do want to keep them in mind, and certainly they can apply.
I believe I sent the first draft out to all the other commissioners, and I believe it was forwarded to all of the county staff who's working on the grant committee, that we do ask the question, has your business received either a PPP or an EIDL loan/grant?
Okay, good stuff.
But I will say, I wouldn't necessarily disqualify somebody because of that. There are some folks that are going to need help, even with those programs. So, unless it disqualifies them.
We would take that in consideration, but it wouldn't be necessarily a striking them off the list.
Right. Thank you.
Right.
Okay.
It would appear that the state rules as currently interpreted would be we need to prioritize businesses that have not yet received any federal assistance, but we can still help other businesses that received PPP or EIDL loans or grants. Just we have to prioritize ones that have not yet been helped.
Good enough.
Sounds good. Okay. In terms of any other nuances to this, I think we've got it's a good framework. We can talk about it in the days to come. Again, Mary Kay is going to be hitting the ground running on this. So, again, we look forward to her having part of the team here. Any other thoughts or suggestions when it comes to that? We know that, again, a lot of the business community has been reaching out to us on this, but we can say, coming out of this meeting today, that we are, again, prioritizing it, moving forward, and we'll be getting that application out as soon as we can. Okay. All right. Again, any public comment on this? We do know we have some individuals on the phone that have joined us. Any comment from you all?
Michael, I have a question from the press here. I'm going to probably have to go through it, and maybe is the county considering allocating more money than originally considered given the new restrictions? Is there an estimate on the total amount of budgeted in-grant money for restaurants and bars? Is there an estimated timeline on how soon restaurants could get these funds? And how badly is it needed, and how quickly is it needed in the county?
Okay, I'm seeing that question as well here from the press. I think we're going to be having a lot of discussions. We've talked about anywhere from $5 million to $7 million when it comes to the business community. Those constraints are a little bit related to the fact that we have other needs that we have in terms of PPE, in terms of nonprofits, in terms of county funds that we need to reimburse, our county expenditures we need to reimburse, and also working with our municipalities. So that's a part of the discussion there. So we don't have an exact amount yet. We're going to work on that with the restaurants and bars, and that'll be primarily driven as well from the applications. And then in terms of the estimated timeline, we've talked before about getting that out in early August, and we're going to do our best with the business grants, again, to get applications out by July, early August, and get the money out, no later than mid-August. And that's really the timeline we've talked about before, but we want to be mindful of the changing landscape. As we know, the COVID-19 world can shift minute by minute. And then lastly, the question that, like you said, Commissioner, was how badly is this needed? And again, Every business is in a different circumstance, but we do know that relief is needed and funds need to get out as soon as we can. But bearing in mind that we want to make sure that we're working through all the requirements of the Treasury guidelines, the DCD guidelines, and we're being mindful of that. Last thing we want to do is put a business in a position where there has to be money given back, or the federal government comes and says they need money back. So we want to be mindful of that. But we're going to do this with diligence, but also with as much haste as possible. Okay. All right. Okay. So we're flowing into the next item here. There is currently a bill that's on the table in Washington called the Restaurant Act of 2020. And what that looks to do is it looks to essentially, much like what we're doing, is saying they would create a specific grant pool specifically for local restaurants to the tune of $120 billion, again, specifically to local restaurants. And this really is coming out of the fact that the PPP program was good. It's well intended. They're working through some of the glitches and some of the mechanizations of it. However, there is a recognition that the local businesses really need the help and may not have been able to apply for the PPP. They may not have been sure about how to go about that, have the resources to do it. So this would be a grant pool specifically for local restaurants. And we know that some Pennsylvania legislators have supported it, but this would be something that we could throw our support behind, again, because we know that there's more rounds of funding that they're talking about. They're talking about a fifth COVID-19 relief bill in Washington, and this would just put, again, as we are a hospitality community with the university and our amazing attractions we have here from a tourism standpoint, but this would just offer our support to say, please, work on this legislation and include it in some way, shape, and form on that fifth COVID-19 relief package. So wanted to bring that before the Commissioner's attention. We also did see an email come out yesterday from the Patton Township Business Association offering some local restaurants in the area that were in favor of this as well. And so wanted to bring it before us to see if there's any support, again, for urging our 4 federal elected officials to support this legislation.
I'm in favor of it. I think that's one group that really needs help right now.
Absolutely. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Higgins, any thought on that one, feedback?
Thought on support for the federal program, the Restaurant
Yes.
Act of 2020. Yeah, badly needed. The restaurants and bars are one of the most affected industries nationally at this point. I definitely would strongly urge our federal elected officials to support our locally owned small businesses in the areas of restaurants and bars.
Okay, sounds good. So it sounds like there's consensus then for us to draft a letter, a very brief letter, and there's sample letters on there's actually a website that's created, Restaurant Act, I think it's .com or .org, but it's specifically related to this by some of the national trade associations for restaurants and the hospitality industry. So I think we could just use that language and send it to Senator Casey, Senator Toomey, Representative Glenn Thompson, and Representative Fred Keller, offering our support. So we have consensus on that. We'll go from there. All right. Thank you all. We will then look at our next item is going to be for personnel, and we'll turn that to Margaret. Good morning, Margaret.
Good morning. We have one item this morning under personnel, and it's a request for consideration of the reinstatement of Paige Fryock in our records department. She's a receiving clerk. She will be moving from full-time furlough to a reduced hours furlough effective July 22nd, 2020. The reason for the request is, as you know, many of the offices are seeing an increased level of work, including our court-related offices, and that does generate additional requests to our records department, and it would be great to have her back at least part-time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Margaret. Would there be a motion to approve the reinstatement?
Motion to approve the reinstatement for records management.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any final discussion on this? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Motion is carried unanimously. Moving on to contracts, Margaret, we'll turn it over to you again.
Yes, thank you. Our first contract this morning is with the coroner's office related to some revenue, and we have coroner's office staff here and our coroners here. Scott, would you like to speak to this item? Or, please, the podium.
It's a contract with the Department of Health and participate in the prescription drug monitoring program. They give us a total of $10,000 for the year. It's $5,000 every 6 months, and it would run from July 1st of this year till December 31st would be a $5,000 allotment, and then a second allotment would be from January 1st, 2021 to June 30th of 2020. Like I said, each allotment would be $5,000. It's information we provide to the Department of Health in reference to drug overdoses as far as the gender, race, age, marital status, nothing specific as far as names or anything of that nature.
Does it go in, it goes into geography a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Sounds great.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Corner. Any questions, feedback for the
We have one more. We have one more presentation, Michael.
This actually starts the beginning of a 3-year grant program that we've signed up for. So this will run for the next 3 years. It's not just an annual that we started out with. So this is the beginning of our next 3 years of participating in the program. So it'll be every 6 months we'll receive the $5,000. And there's there's considerations as to how the money's to be used to help the department be better able to provide this information to the PDMP so that they can monitor and determine if there's something that can be done in the community.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deb. Thank you, Deb and Scott. We appreciate the presentation. And again, good work on this, and thank you for all you're doing during this pandemic. We appreciate the hard, challenging work you have. So thank you on behalf of the citizens of Center County.
Thank you.
No other discussion? Would there be a motion?
Sure. Thanks again to the coroner's office for their hard work. I will add the agreement, make a motion to add the agreement with the Pennsylvania Department of Health to next week's consent agenda.
I will second that.
Been moved and seconded. Any final discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion is carried. Okay, again, thank you, Scott. Thank you, Deb. Okay, at this time, we will turn our next two contracts over for discussion to Chad Joyce. Good morning, Chad.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. The first up for renewal is our Microsoft contract with CDWG. Our current agreement ends at the end of the month. The contractor recommendation is to move from our current licensing model to the Office 365 licensing model. This route would allow employees to access the Microsoft apps from anywhere, enabling greater productivity, flexibility, and remote work capabilities for the Center County workforce. Give a couple overviews. OneDrive will allow for easy file storage and collaboration between departments, within employees and departments on documents. Microsoft Teams is a communication and collaboration platform that will provide chat capabilities, video conferencing, and file storage that integrates with the other Microsoft Office applications. Our email will have improved disaster recovery as well. With moving to Office 365, the county would incur some cost savings in other areas, such as a reduction of infrastructure purchases, and other contracts such as Ignite, Zoom, and BlueJeans could be eliminated or drastically reduced, potentially resulting in maybe roughly a $10,000 a year reduction in those contracts and purchases. Under this recommendation, migration would occur in a phased approach. 270 licenses in the first year, 430 licenses in year 2, and all the remaining licenses by the end of year 3. many of our users have jobs that do not allow for remote work. So this would allow us to be able to onboard those who have remote work within the first year, get most of those on, and then phase in the rest of the county. The 3-year cost for this licensing would be $429,129.37. Within that, year one would be $120,973.69. Year two contract would be $143,517.84. And the final year would be $164,637.84.
Okay, thank you, Chad. Any questions for Chad on this?
No.
No.
Chad, one of the things that we had thought about was in terms of, or we're mindful now, is where are the servers for these entities that we work with, and where are the servers located for in this instance? Because we currently have a lot of our data on our servers, but we would be moving more into the cloud with this. Where would the servers for CD or for Microsoft be?
Yeah, sure. So, great question. They would be housed in the U.S. The government tenants that are created are all housed in their data centers there in the United States.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. And this would be, we've worked with Microsoft for many years now, and this would be a shift, not so much in terms of software, but in terms of how we use the software, and it would provide for a lot more versatility, and so this is a well-needed move. So thanks, Chad, for working on this. We really appreciate that. And then, yep, absolutely. Any other questions, comments for Chad on these two items, Microsoft and Moorfield Communications?
None.
All right, hearing none, is there a motion?
Motion to add the contract renewal with CDWG and the contract with Moorfield Communications, Inc. to next week's consent agenda.
I will second that.
Been moved and seconded. Any final discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Motion is carried. Thanks again, Chad.
Thank you.
All right, for Resolution 17 of 2020, we're going to welcome Ray to discuss this a little bit, and this is coming from a previous conversation we've had about CPACE. Good morning, Ray.
Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning, Margaret. I'm here today to present the Commercial Property Assessed Clean Energy Resolution for consideration. The CPACE program, as it's more well known, assists property owners establishing clean energy alternatives on their property with their buildings through long-term low-interest loans, as you know, and this is tied with your assessment payments to the assessment office, as the low-interest loans are treated separately. The resolution is authorized under Title 12 of Section 4303, where it authorizes counties to establish a program by resolution. We've been working along with other partners to help share this information. Back on May 26th, we conducted a virtual meeting with all 35 municipalities, although we did not have all municipalities on the virtual meeting. Presented information on the background to Act 30. Pam Adams, who's a sustainability planner with Center Region Planning Agency, is also a partner and participated in that discussion. The resolution defines an area or group of real property to establish the program, and in this resolution in particular, it designates the entire county as the CPACE district. The resolution identifies a program administrator, Sustainable Energy Fund, which is a PA 501c3 not-for-profit organization. The resolution also identifies that the program administrator and Center County shall enter into a cooperative agreement to deliver the administration of the program through the Center County CPACE program, and would authorize the county administrator to execute the cooperation agreement. And finally, the resolution does recognize that the county commissioners approved last week a municipal notification letter that they intend to consider this resolution for within 35 municipalities, townships, and boroughs within Center County. So in summary, that's pretty much the makeup of the resolution that you would be considering, and here to answer any other questions with regards to that.
Pretty clear.
Thank you very much, Ray. Any feedback, questions for Mr. Stalinas on this item?
It's pretty clear to me.
Yeah, a great project, not really much of a cost to the county, and allows us to, local businesses to take advantage of green energy.
And as we start to think about the recovery from COVID-19 and what that future looks like, I think this will be, and we have more development occurring in the county, I think this is going to be a tool that will attract people to develop here and attract people to build here. So thanks, Ray, for all the work on this. We appreciate that. And again, we'll look forward to more conversation at next week's meeting. Would there be a motion to add the resolution to the consent agenda for next week?
Motion to add resolution number 17 of 2020 to next week's consent agenda.
We'll second that.
Thank you.
Been moved and seconded. Any final discussion on that?
None.
Hearing none. All in favor of approving for next week, say aye.
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 Okay. The motion is carried. Okay. Thank you very much, Ray. We appreciate it. For our MOU, we're going to welcome Chris to the podium, and Chris will be able to take from there. Hi, Chris.
Good morning, and thank you. Just to give a brief reminder of what the Memorandum of Understanding is that's being acted upon today is it's a three-party agreement between the developer, the township, which is Penn Township in this case, and the county, whereby the developer agrees to reimburse the township for the costs associated with the township engineer's processing, reviewing, and inspecting of the engineering details of the land development plan. And the specific MOU that's being brought before today is for the final land development plan of what's called Breezy Acres Flowers, owned by Christian and Mary King. This proposal constitutes a final plan submission, and it's going to show the removal of 2 existing greenhouses and 1 greenhouse that was approved but not yet constructed, and those are going to be replaced with a new sales office of about 7,200 square feet, 1 greenhouse that's 10,944 square feet, and 2 future greenhouses, each being 5,184 square feet. The place of the development is in Penn Township. It's along State Route 45, about a half a mile east of the Penns Valley Area High School. Thank you.
Those are big greenhouses.
They are. He's been quite successful in his business, and he is seeking to expand his business now.
Good. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Schnur. Any feedback, questions further for Mr. Schnur?
Just happy to see a local Center County business expanding.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Just one question. It's called Breezy.
No, please go ahead.
It's called Breezy Acres Flowers. So they don't do any vegetables. It's all.
I think he
flowers?
does do. I think he started off as flowers, but they
Okay.
do vegetables. They even do landscaping materials. So they have places out there you can buy mulch and stone, etc.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Sorry about that, Michael.
No, not a word, Commissioner. Okay. All right. Will there be a motion?
Motion to add the memorandum of understanding for Breezy Acres Flowers to next week's consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion?
None.
Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
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 The motion is carried. Thanks again, Chris.
All right, thank you. Have a
Thanks.
nice day.
Yep. Appreciate it.
You too. Thank you. Okay. For under Human Services, our first item is with Adult Services. We'll turn it over to Faith Ryan.
Sure. Thank you, everybody. Today I have on the agenda our participation agreement with the Pennsylvania Housing Finance Agency, better known as PHFA. And this is for the 2020 CARES Rent Relief Program for March 1st, 2020 to January 31st, 2021. Again, this is an agreement for us to take the lead to administer the rent relief program in Center County. I'm requesting that commissioners approve this participation today so that I may upload the signed agreement into the PHFA portal, which will allow us to have access to funding quicker than if we delay it. Currently, we use SAM, or Service Access Management, to process our check and direct deposit requests. We started to do that already, and they've been generous enough to front the funding so that we can make sure that people's rents are paid. But with this program being so significant, we're planning actually to move funding and transfer funding to SAM directly, which is actually pretty unique for us. So that's what I'm here for today. Happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Faith. Any questions for Faith?
We're good.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. Okay. Faith, if you could just, in a sentence or two, we know these grants are sometimes complicated, but who can apply for this? Who are the people that should be applying for this?
Sure. So this is a very unique program in that the income eligibility is significantly higher than what we're typically used to. Everything can be found online or even through our adult services page on Center County Government's website. But we are looking at people that their household income based on household size does not exceed 100% of the area median income. So to give you an example, a one individual or one person household would have to have an annual income that exceeds, I believe, $61,200 a year, which again is quite significant compared to what we're typically used to. It's also meant for people that have either become unemployed due to the COVID pandemic or have had reduced hours or reduced income up to at least 30%. So that's something that we work on as we work and process applications to see how we can best make people eligible, which, again, it's very important. We have funding to support hundreds of families and households that may be in need. We can hopefully provide assistance up to 6 months for families or individuals if they're eligible, and that's at $750 a month, which again, if the landlord or property management company is in agreement to working with the program, must accept $750 as full rent, even if the household's rent is above $750. And so those are some more details I can provide, especially in regards to the process of the program and where things are at when I present to the Board of Commissioners next week on Tuesday. But I would say at this point, we are highly encouraged. We are encouraging that anyone that thinks that they're eligible should apply. If they're not eligible for some reason, it keeps the families on our radar. There are other homeless prevention dollars that are coming down the pike that they may be eligible for in the future. We've also referred many families to other agencies to help in the meantime. These are families and individuals that we typically don't work with that are really struggling right now, and it's offered us the opportunity to connect them with as many resources as possible. And I also just want to say, and I'll mention on Tuesday, that I'm so grateful to have up to 5 staff currently through mental health and drug and alcohol helping. That's the size of this program is significant. In about 2.5 weeks or less, we've received 60 applications, and there's at least 20 that I know of that are on the way. Our department has never done anything quite this significant before, so I'm so appreciative for everyone that has stepped up to help me so that we can best serve those that are really struggling right now.
And thank you, Faith, for giving that explanation. So I think it's a really key thing for people to realize. Many times when we get these grants, they're for 150% of the poverty income guidelines. But this is totally different. It raises the bar significantly, and with so many people, again, as we talked about in the hospitality industry and other industries that have been affected by the pandemic, the money is available, and so please apply. And so thank you for giving that explanation and guidelines on that, Faith. We appreciate that.
Faith, is this money that,
Questions please go ahead.
Faith, is this money that goes directly to the to the applicant?
No. So typical as all of our other rental assistance programs, the funding would go directly to the property management company or landlord. What's unique about this program is that either the tenant or landlord can apply or be the point of contact, but they have to work on the application together. So kind of think of it, it's made me kind of flip my mentality or mindset of how programs typically work. We're almost like a county assistance office in a way right now, where it's the responsibility ultimately of the tenant and landlord to get all application, components in, and then we kind of help them along that journey. That doesn't mean that we don't provide an additional aspect of support to them, and that case managers can do that as well. But that's definitely very different for us and has taken us some time to adjust to. The other thing that's very unique about this program is SAM it's actually been requested by PHFA, but SAM Inc. is able to do direct deposit to landlords, which again is something new for us. So landlords and property managers also have the choice of whether or not they want to receive payment through direct deposit or standard check.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any other questions, comments before we look for a motion to approve? Okay, hearing none, is there a motion?
Motion to approve the participation agreement with the Pennsylvania Housing Finance Agency.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any final discussion, comments, questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Motion is carried. Thank you very much, Faith.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Okay, moving on with our human services items, we're going to welcome on to the call Natalie Corman to discuss the contract addendums and letters of agreements, renewals, addendums as well. Good morning, Natalie.
Good morning. So the first item that I have for you is a little bit unique, and what it is, it's the contract addendum with our current drug and alcohol treatment providers. This will be through the fiscal year that we just completed. However, the department wanted language updates to it, and now moving forward, we will have these language updates in our boilerplate that we receive for our contract. And so really what it is, you know, there was some change in the substance abuse block grant funding that we receive, particularly for case management, so we needed to add language in there about case management. The department did some updates in regards to travel and substance reimbursements. They did some language updates to the non-discrimination and sexual harassment clause. They did some language updates for culturally and linguistically appropriate services. And they also did language updates considering medical marijuana prohibition. And they also updated audit requirements for them as well in terms of what providers have to do for federal audits, just like we do as a county. And so we reviewed this as a whole. Obviously, this was reviewed by the Department of Drug and Alcohol for us to do. And to make it easier, we just did an addendum to all of the contracts that we have A through M on it, and just to allow the contracts to be done efficiently by doing it this way. So that is number one for me.
Okay, thank you, Natalie.
So moving on, we have two letters of agreements for our new fiscal year, July 1, 2020 through June 30, 2021. The first one is Sunny Days, which is right up the road from the Willow Bank. For intellectual disability clients, they do a lot of community-based and community supports and companion services for us. Contract total is $6,250, with the county share being $288. And then the letter of agreement with Strawberry Fields is specific to our early intervention services that they provide for us, including the occupational therapy and speech therapy. And that contract total is for $187,500. The county share for early intervention is $18,750. The next contract is with Oasis Life Care to provide our mental health outpatient services, individual psychotherapy, emergency services. I would like to highlight this contract to the board. In one particular reason, Oasis has diligently been working with us prior to and since the closure of Universal Community Behavioral Health to assist us with our involuntary outpatient commitments. As we have expressed previously, that is one particular area with psychiatrists that we continue to do outreach on, and Oasis has developed a great partnership with a psychiatrist who does some inpatient work in an inpatient facility out of this county, who's going to collaborate with us on our IOCs, as we call them. And so we really am hopeful for this collaborative relationship that Oasis and the psychiatrist was willing to bring to Center County to assist us. So the contract reflects that, and the contract total, again, is 5 months of funding, $15,800. And the final two contracts are for the fiscal year that was just completed. Housing transitions, we provided additional funding for them, especially with COVID-19, for any individuals to receive emergency housing assistance that were also linked to our drug and alcohol program. And so we increased that contract to $20,000, with the county share being $95,000. And then we did a contract addendum to St. Francis University, in particular for our surveys that we do for individuals that receive our services. We increased that by $807 to contract total of $33,832, and that is all state funded for us. That's all I have.
Okay. Thank you very much, Natalie. Any questions on those items for Natalie?
None.
No.
Okay. Would we look for a motion then?
Sure. I will make a motion to add MHIDEI drug and alcohol items Roman numeral 1 through 7 to next week's consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion, questions on these? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 The motion is carried. Okay, thank you very much, Natalie.
Thank you.
All right, we'll turn the floor over to Carrie Hull to discuss an item for criminal justice planning. Good morning, Carrie.
Good morning. I'm here to request the board's approval to submit a grant application to the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency for up to $130,000 for the 2020-2021 Intermediate Punishment Treatment Program funds. This is a grant that Center County has been receiving for many, many years. Sometimes it's a one-year grant, sometimes it's 2 years. This year it will be a one-year grant. And like other state funds, funding is only guaranteed for 5 months at this point due to the current status of the situation. So Center County is eligible for up to $130,000. Those grant funds support 100% of a salary of our DUI court probation officer, and then a small percentage of salaries towards a probation supervisor, a task coordinator at drug and alcohol, and a percentage of that person's benefits as well. It also supports drug testing, the DUI rant, the TAD monitoring bracelet, call to test, and then the bulk of the grant really covers our treatment services, so outpatient, inpatient, intensive outpatient, detox, medicated assisted treatment, recovery support, mental health treatment. So it's really to cover those individuals who are in our DUI court or intermediate punishment program that do not have medical assistance and do not have personal insurance to cover their treatment cost. This grant is the payee of last resort, so those funds would be covered. Like I said, it's only guaranteed this year for 5 months through December, and then we'll see what happens after that. Typically, this would have been released in February. There was some delays, so it will have a retroactive start date back to July 1. Are there any questions?
The project total is $130,000, but that's prorated for the end of.
That is our total year amount. That would be for 12 months.
But they haven't approved 12 months.
We will do a budget for 12 months, and then they'll see in December if we can submit any more requests.
So we shouldn't spend this all in 5 months.
Typically, we don't because they're quarterly fiscal reports that I complete and submit. So yeah, typically we don't spend the full amount.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for Carrie on this item? Okay, hearing none, is there a motion?
Motion to add the grant application to Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency to next week's consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you very much, Carrie. Have a nice
Thanks,
day.
Carrie.
Thank you.
We have 2 items on our consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve our consent agenda?
Motion to approve today's consent agenda.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 The motion is carried. All right. Margaret, we'll turn it over to you for an administrator's report.
No report today.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll go on to our check run.
Sure, we have a very large check run today, but also a very good explanation as of why. The check run is $15,359,992.39. The reason why it's so large is the check of the week, which is $14,664,804, which arrived from the state of Pennsylvania for the Center County CARES Act funding, and we have transferred that to the county money market fund immediately as soon as it arrived. Those are the funds that we'll use to support all the 7 different groups, including nonprofits, small businesses, county expenses, etc. So I will make the motion to approve the check run dated July 17th.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the check run. Any further discussion on the check run?
None.
Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. The motion is carried. Okay. Thank you, Commissioner. We go to Commissioner Gershom with the voter registration report.
Okay, we have 109,177 registered voters in Center County this week. That's down 128 from last report. We have 46,157 Democratic registrants, 148 Green Party, 679 Libertarian, 14,608 no affiliation, and 43,016 Republican voters. That leaves all other voters at 4,569. And the feature party of the week is the Campbell Party. The Campbell Party has 1 registrant in Center County, and I hope it's a family name and not named after the soup. So there you have it. Okay, the precinct report this week is precinct number 77, which is Snowshoe West, votes at the community center in Moshannon. In the last election, there were 337 registered voters in that precinct. Voter turnout was 155, which gave a robust voter turnout percentage of 45.99%. We want to thank the folks at the community center for allowing us to use your facility. And the folks that make it happen, the judge of election is Phoebe Borger, minority inspector is Lisa Smoyer, my majority inspector is Elizabeth Watson, and the clerks are Sharon Hall and Barbara Skripik. So again, thank you for allowing us to use your facility, and we'll be back in just about 3 months. So there you have it.
Okay.
Back to you, Michael.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Any executive sessions to report today, Margaret?
Yes, the Board of Commissioners met in executive session on Thursday, July 16th from 3 to 3:37 p.m. to discuss a legal matter.
Okay, thank you. This time we will accept any questions from the press at this time.
One from Gary.
Steve, last week you talked about November being a lot busier and more people working the elections. People who might be interested in volunteering. Do they just contact the elections office? And there is a separate training program?
Yes, there will be additional training. One of the challenges we have this year, and I think we've discussed it here in the commissioner meetings in the past, we are looking probably for a fair number of people to help us with the tally of the mail-in and absentee ballots. We're still working out some of the logistics of that conversation, but we could be looking upwards of 100 people to make that project work, on top of all the other necessary poll workers, which we presume we'll need. Then we'll also have the students back at Penn State, so precinct number 24 at the hub will be roaring again, so we'll probably need a little bit extra help up there, and stay tuned. I think as we move forward, we'll have a better idea of how many people and what circumstance we find ourselves staff-wise.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions in the room or either on the phone as well? Okay. All right. We would then at this time look for a motion to adjourn the Board of Commissioners meeting.
Motion to adjourn the Board of Commissioners meeting at 11:05.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.